The Arizona desert in 1883 stretched like a vast, unyielding plain of red sand, its surface rippling under the merciless glare of a midday sun that turned the horizon into a shimmering mirage of heat and desolation. Sagebrush Ridge, a remote trail winding between rugged mesas and scattered creosote bushes, baked under a sky devoid of mercy, its cracked earth whispering tales of survival and loss. Jacob Tate rode into the stillness on his bay mare, Juniper, his broad shoulders stooped beneath a sun-faded duster, his boots caked with dust from weeks on the trail. At 34, his face was a rugged map of lines etched by wind and hardship, a faint scar along his jaw, a memento of a rustler's bullet. His hat, battered and sweat-stained, shaded hazel eyes that carried a quiet resilience, a cowboy wandering since his family's ranch was foreclosed, leaving him with a lasso, a rifle, and a heart heavy with unhealed wounds. He'd come to Sagebrush Ridge to water Juniper and rest, his canteen dry, his saddlebags light after a lean season of cattle drives. The trail was a rare respite, its solitude a stark contrast to the chaos of towns, its silence broken only by the creak of leather and the occasional buzz of a fly. As Jacob dismounted near a dry wash, a sound pierced the stillness, a faint, panicked scream, barely audible over the wind. He turned, his hand on his rifle, and saw them, 2 young girls, no older than 10 and 8, scrambling across the sand, their small frames pursued by a writhing mass of scorpions. Their dark hair was matted with dust, their buckskin dresses torn and faded, their eyes wide with terror as they stumbled, one clutching a small pouch, the other a woven bracelet. Jacob's heart clenched. He'd heard tales of Apache families scattered by raids, their children left vulnerable in the desert's grip. These girls, endangered and desperate, stirred a memory his younger sister, lost to a bandit raid, a loss that had driven him to this wandering life. He spurred Juniper forward, his lasso whipping through the air, snaring the scorpions and flinging them aside. Leaping down, he scooped the girls into his arms, their weight a feather compared to the burden of his solitude. "I'm Jacob Tate," he said, his voice gruff but kind. "You're safe now." The elder, about 10, gasped, "Ayla." The younger, around 8, whispered, "Kiva." Jacob nodded, carrying them to the shade of a mesquite tree, laying them on his duster. Using water from his canteen, he cleaned their stung legs and bandaged the wounds with strips torn from his shirt. The girls watched him, their trust a fragile thread, their possessions held tight. "Why help us?" Ayla asked, her voice weak. Jacob met her gaze, his scar itching under the sun. "Lost my sister once to outlaws. Can't leave you to die like that." Ayla's eyes softened, but suspicion lingered, a reflection of a life shaped by hardship. As he worked, the trail's quiet, shattered footsteps approached, deliberate and soft. Jacob grabbed his rifle, the girls huddling close, and saw her. A woman, her figure weary but proud, her dark hair tied back with a leather strip, her worn buckskin dress adorned with faded beads. Her face, lined with the strain of survival, held a fierce beauty, her brown eyes meeting his with a mix of gratitude and wariness. "I'm Talia," she said, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. "Their mother, thank you for saving my daughters." Jacob lowered his rifle, his heart pounding. They were in trouble. Brought them in. Talia stepped closer, her hands trembling as she knelt beside Ayla and Kiva. "We were driven from our village. Outlaws took everything. I lost them in the storm." She embraced her daughters, tears cutting through the dust on her face. Jacob's mind raced. Outlaws meant trouble, and this woman's presence confirmed it. "Stay," he said, the words slipping out. "You're safe here." Talia's eyes narrowed, assessing him. "Why take us in? Men like you take, not give." Jacob shrugged, his scar prickling. "Lost my family. Can't turn away yours." That night, the camp buzzed with quiet activity. Ayla and Kiva ate sparingly from a plate of jerky Jacob prepared, their strength returning, their pouch and bracelet held tight. Talia tended the fire, her hands skilled, her presence a disruption to Jacob's solitude. "We can't stay long," she said. "Outlaws hunt us. Victor Slade. He wants an artifact we guard." Jacob's stomach tightened. Slade's name was a curse, a bandit who plundered Apache lands, his greed a shadow over the plains. "What artifact?" he asked. Talia hesitated, then opened her pouch, revealing a small, intricately carved stone, its surface etched with symbols. "A tribal relic. It guides to our gold. Slade killed for it." The revelation hit Jacob like a gust. Gold was a magnet for death, but the girls' lives were worth more. "I'll protect you," he said, his resolve firming, though doubt gnawed at him. As the fire crackled, hoofbeats echoed in the distance, growing louder. Jacob grabbed his rifle, Talia rising with a knife from her pouch. Shadows loomed. 3 riders, their coats dusted with sand, their hats marked with Slade's gang insignia. The leader, a burly man with a scarred cheek, dismounted. "Tate," he barked. "Those girls are mine. Slade wants them back." Jacob's jaw tightened. "They're free," he said, his rifle steady. "Ride off, or we fight." The man laughed, drawing a pistol. "You're outnumbered, cowboy." Ayla moved like a shadow, her pouch striking the man's hand, disarming him. Jacob fired, his shot grazing another rider's shoulder, sending them scattering. The third fled, shouting threats. "Slade'll burn you out." Jacob lowered his rifle, his heart pounding. Talia's eyes met his, a flicker of respect breaking through. "You didn't have to," she said. Jacob wiped sweat from his brow, his scar itching. "Ain't right, what they did. I've got my own ghosts." They settled in, the family's gratitude a quiet bond. Talia offered Jacob the carved stone. "For your kindness," she said, "but it brings danger." The desert stretched vast, its silence a promise of more trials. But Jacob's act of mercy had ignited a spark, a family forged in dust and mystery, with Slade's wrath looming on the horizon. The Arizona desert unfurled like a relentless sea of red sand as Jacob Tate, Ayla, Kiva, and Talia ventured away from Sagebrush Ridge, the sun dipping low to cast long shadows across the arid expanse. Jacob led the way on foot, his sun-faded duster dusted with the day's toil, his worn boots crunching through the shifting dunes, his lasso coiled at his hip, his rifle slung across his back. His face, rugged with a scar along his jaw, bore a mixture of determination and unease, his hazel eyes scanning the horizon for signs of Victor Slade's men. Ayla, the elder girl at 10, walked beside him, her tattered buckskin dress fluttering, her small pouch with the tribal artifact swaying at her waist, her dark eyes sharp with survival. Kiva, 8, clung to her sister's hand, her woven bracelet glinting, her movements timid yet resolute. Talia followed, her worn buckskin dress adorned with faded beads, her hands carrying the carved stone reward, her brown eyes vigilant with a mother's protectiveness. The journey to a hidden Apache settlement near Sunken Pass, a day's ride, was their goal, but the desert held other trials to test their resolve. Their water was scarce, the canteen they'd salvaged from Sagebrush Ridge reduced to a few tepid drops, their supplies dwindled to a strip of jerky and a handful of desert figs Talia had foraged. The sun beat down, its heat a relentless adversary, the silence broken only by the rasp of their breathing, the crunch of sand, and the distant call of a hawk circling overhead. Jacob's mind churned with the previous day's events, his impulsive rescue of Ayla and Kiva, Talia's arrival with the strange reward, the threat of Slade. He'd saved the girls to ease his own guilt, but their presence now drew danger, a price he hadn't foreseen. He offered Ayla water, a gesture of goodwill, his hand trembling slightly. Ayla accepted, her eyes narrowing. "Why help us?" she asked, her voice weak. Jacob met her gaze, his scar itching under the sun. "Lost my sister once to outlaws, can't leave you to die like that." Ayla's expression softened, but suspicion lingered, a reflection of a life shaped by loss. Talia and the girls walked with a quiet dignity, their buckskin garments rustling softly, the carved stone catching the fading light. Talia shared their story as they moved, her voice low. "Slade's men raided our village, stole our livestock, killed many. Ayla and Kiva escaped with this artifact." She held up the stone, its symbols intricate. "It guides to our gold. He hunts us for it." Ayla added, her tone firm. "He burned our home." Kiva whispered. "We hid." Jacob's heart sank. The artifact was a magnet for death, a lure that had ruined men, but the girls' lives were worth more. "I'll keep you safe," he said, his resolve firming, though doubt gnawed at him about the stone's curse. Their progress halted at midday when they reached a trading post, tucked into a dry arroyo dust haven, a haven for outlaws and wanderers. Jacob needed supplies, his stores depleted, but Talia tensed. "Danger here," she warned. "Men talk." Jacob nodded, his rifle ready. Inside, the air was stifling, the stench of sweat and stale liquor thick. A trader named Luke Tanner, a wiry man with a patchy beard, leaned against a crate, his eyes narrowing. Jacob Tate, he said. Heard you took in Apache runaways. Slade's offering a bounty. Jacob's jaw tightened, his past with land disputes flashing. Mind your own, Luke. Tanner smirked, his gaze on the girls. $200 says I tell him where you're headed. Talia's knife flashed, pinning Tanner's sleeve to the wood. Speak, and you bleed, she hissed. Jacob stepped forward, his rifle aimed. Walk away, Luke. This ain't your fight. Tanner paled, yanking free and fleeing, his laughter echoing. Slade'll hunt you down. Jacob cursed under his breath. Tanner's treachery would lead Slade straight to Sunken Pass. We move now, he said. The family's respect grew, their trust a tentative thread. You're brave, Ayla said. Jacob shook his head, the weight of his past pressing down. I've run from worse. The ambush came at dusk. Hoofbeats thundered through the sand, and 4 of Slade's men, led by a scar-faced rider named Cole, surrounded them near a rocky outcrop. Hand over the girls, Cowboy. Cole barked, his rifle raised. Jacob fired, his shot grazing Cole's arm, sending him staggering. Ayla threw a rock, striking another's shoulder. While Kiva hid, her bracelet clutched tight, Talia's knife fell to third, and Jacob's second shot dropped him, the outcrop falling silent save for the wind's moan. The 4th fled, shouting threats. Slade'll burn you out. They took cover behind the rocks, bandaging minor cuts, the heat seeping into their exhaustion. Talia's eyes met Jacob's, her suspicion easing. You fight for us, she said. Jacob wiped sweat from his brow, his scar itching. Ain't right what Slade did. I've got blood on my hands from men like him. Ayla nodded, her pain surfacing. He killed our father for the artifact. Jacob's breath caught the stone was the key, a prize worth killing for. We'll keep it safe, he said, his resolve hardening. Their bond deepened as they rested, Jacob sharing his canteen, Talia offering figs from her pouch. Why carry that stone? He asked. Talia held it up, its symbols glowing faintly. It's our tribe's guide to gold. My husband died protecting it. Jacob's heart ached, his losses echoing theirs. I lost my folks to foreclosure, drifted since. Kiva's gaze softened. We're all lost then. Maybe we find each other. The night stretched ahead, the desert vast, but the threat of Slade grew. Jacob taught Ayla to use his lasso, her hands steady despite her youth, their partnership a lifeline. Talia showed him Apache tracking signs, their trust aflame against the desert's grip. You're strong, Jacob said. Ayla smiled, a rare light in her eyes. You too, brother. Talia watched, her trust deepening, a family forged in the crucible of the desert, but the peace was fleeting. Hoofbeats returned, closer now Cole and his men, relentless as the sun. Jacob chose a defensible ridge, setting up with the family behind rocks. We fight if we must, he said, his rifle ready. Talia nodded, her knife poised. Cole's men appeared, their rifles glinting. Last chance, Tate, Cole shouted. Jacob fired, his shot dropping a rider, but an arrow grazed Talia's arm, drawing a cry. Ayla shielded her, her pouch a talisman, while Kono's men struck, their spears felling too, forcing the attackers to retreat. They bandaged Talia's arm, Jacob's hands gentle. You're all my family now, he said. Talia's eyes met his, a warmth breaking through. And you're ours. The desert tested them, its trials forging a bond, but Slade's wrath loomed larger, a storm they'd face together. Sunken Pass was near, but so was their reckoning. The Arizona desert sprawled like an unforgiving crucible of red sand, its surface baking under the relentless glare of a midday sun that transformed the air into a shimmering furnace of heat and dust. Jacob Tate, Ayla, Kiva, and Talia pressed onward, the wagon creaking behind Jacob's steady hands, the bay mare Juniper straining through the shifting dunes with a weary gait. Jacob's sun-faded duster was soaked with sweat, his worn boots sinking into the sand, his lasso coiled at his hip, his rifle slung across his back. His face, rugged with a scar along his jaw, bore a determined set, his hazel eyes scanning the horizon for signs of Victor Slade's men, a quiet resolve battling the weight of his past. Ayla, the elder girl at 10, walked beside him, her tattered buckskin dress fluttering, her small pouch with the tribal artifact swaying, her dark eyes sharp with survival. Kiva, 8, clung to her sister's hand, her woven bracelet glinting, her movements timid yet resolute. Talia followed, her worn buckskin dress adorned with faded beads, her hands carrying the carved stone reward, her brown eyes vigilant with a mother's protectiveness. The journey to the hidden Apache settlement near Sunken Pass, their destination, was a half-day's ride. But the desert held other trials to test their mettle. Their water was nearly depleted, the canteen they'd salvaged from Dust Haven reduced to a few tepid drops, their supplies dwindled to a strip of jerky and a handful of desert figs Talia had foraged. The sun beat down, its heat a relentless adversary, the silence broken only by the rasp of their breathing, the creak of the wagon, and the distant call of a buzzard, circling overhead. Jacob's mind wrestled with his past, his family's ranch foreclosed, his sister lost to a bandit raid, a guilt that shadowed his every step, the presence of Ayla, Kiva, and Talia, a mirror to his loneliness, stirred a compassion he'd buried, their resilience a challenge to his wandering life. "We need to find water soon," Jacob said, his voice hoarse from the dry air. Talia nodded, pointing to a faint shadow on the horizon. "There's a dry wash ahead, it might hold a spring," she replied, her Apache wisdom guiding them through the wasteland. The girls' silence, broken only by soft gasps, hinted at fears they couldn't voice, the artifact a burden they carried together. They reached the dry wash as the sun peaked, its shade a fleeting mercy against the scorching heat. Jacob checked the wagon, its wheels wobbling from the rough terrain, while Ayla and Kiva scouted for signs of life, their movements quick despite their exhaustion. The wash offered a shallow pool, its water brackish but drinkable, a rare oasis in the desert's grip. Jacob filled the canteen, offering it to Kiva first, his hands trembling slightly. "Drink, little one," he said, the words warm with care. Kiva accepted, her eyes softening. "Thank you, Jacob," she murmured, a rare smile breaking through her fatigue. The moment was brief, but it deepened their bond, a thread of trust weaving through their shared struggle. The desert's trial struck at noon. A sandstorm brewed on the horizon, a roiling wall of red dust that swallowed the sky, its roar a challenge to their endurance. "Get down," Jacob shouted, pulling Ayla, Kiva, and Talia behind a boulder, the wagon shuddering in the wind. The storm hit like a living entity, its force tearing at their clothes, dust clogging their throats and stinging their eyes. Jacob shielded the girls with his duster, Talia huddling close, the tempest raging for hours, leaving them buried in drifts, their water spilled into the sand. As it passed, the desert revealed a new peril, a bandit trap, a pit concealed by sand, its stakes glinting near Kiva's foot. Jacob reacted instantly, yanking her back, the trap snapping shut inches from her. Ayla's quick thinking with a rock dislodged the mechanism, saving them. "Good save," Jacob said, his respect for them growing. Ayla nodded, her gaze steady. "The desert tests us," she replied. That night, they camped in the wash's lee, a small fire their only warmth, its glow casting shadows on the rocky walls. The storm had delayed them, the settlement still a half-day away, and Jacob's mind churned with guilt, his family's loss, his years of drifting, now this family's fight. Talia offered him a fig, her hands gentle. "You fight for us," she said. "Why?" Jacob poked the fire, his face shadowed. "I turned away from trouble once my sister paid for it. Can't do that again." Kiva's eyes softened, her pain surfacing. "Slade killed our father, took our home." The confession hung heavy, a mirror to Jacob's regrets. "Strength ain't just in safety," he said. "It's in standing together." Ayla leaned against him, her voice small. "The artifact protects us. Slade wants it." Jacob's heart ached, his losses echoing theirs. "I lost my folks to foreclosure, drifted since." Talia's gaze met his, a warmth breaking through. "We're all lost then. Maybe we find kin." Their talk was interrupted by a rustle. Apache figures emerged from the dusk, led by a stout woman with a painted face. "I am Kaya, a guardian of my people," she said, her voice cautious. "We saw the storm. Slade hunts you." She offered a water skin, her eyes on the girls. "You're alive, daughters. We thought you lost." Ayla ran to her, tears in her eyes. "Jacob saved us." Kaya nodded, offering Jacob a beaded cord. "You're kin now, Cowboy." The reunion was brief but heartfelt. Kaya's warriors, 10 strong, joined them, their spears glinting. "Slade's tracker, Cole, is near," Kaya warned. "He won't stop." Jacob's heart steadied, his bond with the family a shield. "We fight together," he said. Kiva's hand found his, her trust a beacon. "You're our brother," she whispered. The words warmed him, a redemption he hadn't sought. The peace shattered at dawn. Hoofbeats echoed Cole and 7 riders, their rifles ready. Kaya's men melted into the rocks, leaving Jacob and the family exposed. "Run," Kaya whispered, but Jacob stood firm, his rifle raised. Cole's voice cut through the heat. "Give up the girls, Tate, or die." Jacob fired, his shot grazing a rider, but an arrow struck Talia's side, drawing a cry. Ayla shielded her, her pouch a talisman, while Kaya's men felled too, forcing Cole to retreat. They bandaged Talia's side, Jacob's hands gentle. "You're all my family now," he said. Talia's eyes met his, a warmth breaking through. "And you're ours." The desert tested them, its trials forging a bond, but Slade's wrath loomed larger, a storm they'd faced together. Sunken Pass was near, but so was their reckoning. Sunken Pass loomed like a shadowed gash across the Arizona desert, its rocky ravine of red sandstone and jagged outcrops standing defiant against the encroaching dusk. The sun dipped low, casting a fiery glow across the pass's rim, the air thick with the scent of sun-scorched earth and the faint promise of a cooling night breeze. Jacob, Tate, Ayla, Kiva, Talia, and the Apache warriors led by Kaya prepared for their stand, the tension palpable in the stillness. Jacob's sun-faded duster was torn, his worn boots caked with dust and blood from his grazed arm, his lasso coiled at his hip, his rifle steady despite the ache in his muscles. His face, rugged with a scar along his jaw, bore a grim determination, his hazel eyes shadowed by the weight of his past. Ayla, the elder girl at 10, stood beside him, her tattered buckskin dress fluttering, her small pouch with the tribal artifact clutched tightly, her dark eyes sharp with survival. Kiva, 8, clung to her sister's hand, her woven bracelet glinting, her movements timid yet resolute. Talia followed, her worn buckskin dress adorned with faded beads, her side wound bandaged, her hands carrying the carved stone reward, her brown eyes vigilant with a mother's resolve. The journey to this refuge had forged their bond, now tested by Victor Slade's pursuit. The pass offered strategic ground-steep drops for ambushes, rocky outcrops for cover, and a narrow pass for traps. Jacob fortified a vantage point with Kaya's men, his hands calloused from years of cattle drives, now skilled in war. Ayla rigged tripwires with sinew, her movements precise despite her exhaustion, her pouch a constant reminder of their burden. Kiva assisted, stacking stones with Eli, a young warrior from Kaya's band, her small hands trembling but determined. "Slade wants the artifact," Talia said, her voice low and strained. "He'll kill us for it." Jacob nodded, his guilt over past inaction fueling his resolve. "We hold him here," he replied. Eli handed him a sharpened spear, a silent pledge of unity, the weapon's weight a comfort in his hands. Kaya distributed spears and arrows, her face painted with earth tones, her warriors blending into the pass's shadows. "Cole leads them," she warned. "He's close." Jacob's heart steadied, his bond with the family a shield against the encroaching dark. "We fight as kin," he said. Ayla's eyes met his, a flicker of trust breaking through her pain. "You're our brother," she said, her words a balm to his wounded spirit. The sentiment lingered, a redemption he hadn't dared hope for, as the wind carried the distant sound of approaching hooves. As dusk deepened, the air grew taut with anticipation, the pass's silence broken by the crunch of boots on gravel. Victor Slade rode in with a dozen men, Cole at his side, the tracker's scar-faced grin a harbinger of violence. Slade, a broad man in a black duster lined with stolen pelts, dismounted and called out, his voice a thunderclap against the cliffs. "Tate, hand over the girls and that stone, or this pass becomes your tomb." Jacob stepped forward, his rifle raised, his voice firm despite the heat. "You'll have to take them over my dead body, Slade," he shouted, his breath visible in the cooling air. The clash erupted like a desert tempest. Slade's men charged, their rifles and revolvers spitting fire through the dusk. Jacob's first shot dropped a rider, the bullet finding its mark with a precision honed by years on the trail. Kaya's warriors struck from the shadows, their spears felling two more, their movements silent and deadly. Ayla triggered a tripwire, a dynamite cache salvaged from an old trader's stash exploding and sending a shower of sand and rock, scattering the attackers. But Slade's numbers were overwhelming, and Cole's rifle was a relentless predator, his bullet grazing Jacob's leg, drawing a sharp hiss of pain. Talia pulled him behind a boulder, her side wound seeping anew. "Stay alive," she growled, loosing a knife that struck a man's chest, her aim unwavering despite her fatigue. The pass became a battlefield, its echoes ringing with gunfire and the thud of falling bodies. Jacob fired again, dropping another rider, the heat numbing his hands but not his resolve. Kaya's warriors fought with primal fury, their spears piercing the fray, while Eli and Kiva lobbed rocks, their small forms a surprising force. But Slade's voice cut through the chaos. "Talia, give me the artifact's secret, or they all die." He held a pistol to Kaya's head, the warrior's spear shattered, her eyes defiant. Talia's heart sank, her stone clutched tight. "No," she cried, her voice raw with emotion. Jacob's mind raced. He couldn't lose another family. He signaled Kaya's men to hold, his gaze locking with Talia's, a silent plea for a plan. Talia stepped forward, her stance defiant despite her wounds. "Slade betrayed my tribe," she shouted, her voice carrying over the wind. "He sold them to settlers for gold, left us to die when we resisted." The revelation hit Jacob like a thunderclap. Slade's greed wasn't just for profit, but for the artifact's secret, a map to gold her tribe had guarded. Slade laughed, his pistol steady. "Then you all die with your lies." But Talia moved, shoving Jacob, Ayla, and Kiva aside as Cole fired, the bullet tearing through her chest. She fell, blood pooling in the dust, her stone slipping from her grasp. "Jacob, no!" he roared, lunging to her side, his hands trembling as he pressed against the wound. Kaya's warriors charged, their spears a blur, felling 3 men in a surge of vengeance. Eli struck with a rock, stunning a rider, while Ayla and Kiva threw their pouch and bracelet, distracting another. Jacob tackled Cole, their struggle a tangle of fists and sand, until his rifle butt crushed the tracker's skull, ending the threat. Slade roared, charging with his pistol, but Kaya's spear found his leg, bringing him down. The remaining outlaws fled, their horses vanishing into the dusk. Jacob knelt beside Talia, his hands stained with her blood, his heart breaking as he tried to stem the flow. "Hold on," he pleaded, his voice cracking with emotion. Her eyes met his, a faint smile breaking through the pain. "You're my brother now," she rasped. "Protect them. The artifact is their future." Her hand fell, her spirit slipping into the desert's embrace, her sacrifice a final act of trust. Kaya bound Slade, her men finishing the fight, the pass falling silent, save for the wind's mournful wail. Slade was defeated, his men scattered, but Talia's loss was a wound deeper than the heat. Jacob cradled her, tears mixing with the dust on his face, the weight of her words sinking in. Ayla and Kiva approached, placing the stone and bracelet on her chest. "She was our mother," Ayla said, her voice thick. "Now she's with our father." The Apache carried her to a pyre, their chants rising, a tribute to her courage that echoed through the pass. Jacob stood, his guilt eased by her forgiveness, his promise to protect the girls a new purpose. The pass smoldered, the air heavy with loss and victory. Kaya offered Jacob a place with the tribe, and he nodded. "I'll honor her at the settlement," he said, his voice steady. The journey to Sunken Pass had broken Slade's grip, but Talia's sacrifice would resonate in the desert silence. Jacob's redemption was hers, and the artifact, her people's legacy, would remain guarded. The dawn broke over Sunken Pass, a fragile light spilling across the red sands, where the embers of Talia's pyre glowed like the last whispers of a fading hope. The air was thick with the lingering scent of smoke and the dry, earthy aroma of the desert, the vast Arizona wilderness reclaiming the battlefield with a quiet, unyielding peace. Jacob Tate stood at the pass's edge, his sun-faded duster torn and dusted with ash, his worn boots planted firmly in the sand, his lasso and rifle resting against a boulder. His face, rugged with a scar along his jaw, bore the weight of grief, his hazel eyes glistening with unshed tears, the guilt of his past softened by Talia's final words. The beaded cord from Talia encircled his neck, a symbol of the kinship that had brought him to this moment. Victor Slade, bound and defeated, slumped against a rock, his outlaw reign shattered, his greed no match for the courage of a cowboy and his newfound family. Ayla and Kiva, the 2 Apache girls, stood beside him, their tattered buckskin dresses fluttering in the breeze, their small hands clutching the pouch and bracelet, their dark eyes reflecting a mix of sorrow and hope. Kaya, the Apache leader, flanked them, her spear lowered, her painted face etched with both loss and pride. The Apache warriors, led by Kaya, moved with a solemn reverence, their faces mirroring the ravine's crimson hues as they gathered around Talia's pyre. The flames had dwindled to a gentle glow, the sand around it darkened by melted wax and ash, a testament to her sacrifice. Kaya knelt, offering a prayer in Apache, her voice a deep chant that reverberated through the cliffs, honoring a mother who had transcended her role as protector. Jacob watched, his hands trembling as he placed the carved stone, her strange reward, onto the pyre, a silent vow to carry her legacy forward. Ayla and Kiva joined him, adding their pouch and bracelet, their offerings a tribute to her courage. "She saved us," Ayla said, her voice soft but resolute. "You kept her promise." Jacob nodded, the words a balm to his wounded soul, a redemption he hadn't dared to claim. The journey to the hidden Apache settlement began, the warriors carrying the pyre's remnants through the pass's rocky trail, its ashes a sacred burden. The path was treacherous, the sand shifting underfoot, the heat of the day giving way to a cooling breeze that carried the promise of renewal. Jacob walked with them, his leg aching from the graze but his spirit lifted by their unity. The settlement emerged, a sheltered valley nestled between towering mesas, its floor dotted with mesquite and a faint shimmer of a spring fed by an underground stream. The Apache survivors greeted them, their faces etched with grief for Talia but warmth for her savior. Kaya led Jacob to the spring, its waters clear and life-giving, reflecting the cavern walls adorned with painted symbols and woven mats, a sanctuary Talia had died to protect. "Her spirit guards this place," Kaya said. "You are kin." The tribe gathered around a fire that night, the valley's walls amplifying their voices as they shared tales of Talia's bravery. Her gifts to Jacob, her trust, the stone were now symbols of her legacy, their weight heavier than the gold Slade had sought. They offered him a place among them, their eyes reflecting gratitude and hope. "You fought for her," Kaya said, handing him a woven blanket. "Stay and find peace." Jacob hesitated, his mind drifting to his past, a cowboy adrift since his family's ranch was lost, his sister's death a guilt he'd carried like a stone. Talia's words, "You're my brother," echoed, her sacrifice a key to unlock that prison. "I'll stay," he said finally, "but I'll bring my skills to your valley, with your help." The days that followed were a blend of mourning and rebuilding. The Apache taught Jacob their ways, how to channel the spring's water for crops, how to weave mats from agave, how to honor the land with rituals. Ayla and Kiva became his shadows, the girls' knowledge of their mother's traditions complementing Jacob's cowboy expertise. They constructed a small adobe home near the spring, its walls rising under their hands, a fusion of Apache resilience and Jacob's craftsmanship. The desert, once a place of solitude, became a bridge between worlds, its silence broken by the tribe's laughter and the trickle of water. One evening as the sun set, painting the valley in shades of orange and purple, Jacob stood at the spring's edge, the beaded cord a constant reminder. Ayla and Kiva joined him, holding a new pouch and bracelet woven by the tribe. "For us?" Ayla asked. Jacob nodded, his eyes misting as he handed them out. "Your mother would want you to have them," he said. Kiva smiled, a rare light in her young face. "She gave us a home." The sentiment lingered, a bond forged in the crucible of the desert. The tribe celebrated with a feast, their songs filling the valley, Talia's name woven into the melodies. Jacob learned her story in full, how she'd fought to protect Ayla and Kiva during Slade's raid, how she'd hidden the artifact to save their heritage, how her spirit now watched over them. His past, his failure to save his sister, his years of aimless wandering faded against her forgiveness. He wasn't just a cowboy anymore, but a guardian, a brother to those he'd once failed. Kaya approached, offering a carved wooden flute. "Lead with her spirit," she said. Jacob took it, his hands steady. "I will." Weeks later, the valley thrived, its spring nourishing new crops, its people strengthened by Jacob's aid. He rebuilt his life, the Apache's help a lifeline, their stories a balm to his loneliness. Talia's stone hung above the home's door, a shrine to her sacrifice, its symbols a silent witness. The desert stretched vast, its red sands a testament to their fight, but it was no longer a place of solitude. Jacob's redemption was complete, not in gold, but in the family he'd found: Ayla, Kiva, Kaya, the tribe all bound by Talia's legacy. As the sun rose over Sunken Pass, its golden light bathed the valley, a promise of a new beginning. Jacob stood at the home's threshold, the wooden flute at his side, the beaded cord gleaming. He was no longer just a cowboy who'd shown mercy, but a brother to a mother whose courage had saved him, whose artifact had turned peril into a legacy of strength. The desert whispered her name, and Jacob carried it forward, a new legacy born from the ashes of sacrifice.